In this tutorial, we're going to use Excel's pivot tables to analyze these data here. And what these are salary data. People who graduated from the College of Agriculture at K-State University, and a survey was sent out in 1997 asking people how much money they made. And so what we have here in each row is a different person and the salary they make. Now, to the right of salary are some information about the person. For instance, we know how many years of experience they have, and you would expect someone with more experience would make more money. We have whether they live in a city or rural area. We would expect that people in a rural area would make less because the cost of living is smaller. We have information on their gender, male or female, whether they're married or unmarried. Everybody in this survey got either one of 4 degrees from Kansas State University, and we have that information. And we also have information about whether they got a master's degree, and if they did, whether it was in agriculture economics. What we want to do now is we're just going to create this pivot table, and then I'm going to show you how to use the pivot table. So even though you don't know what a pivot table is yet, just follow along with me. It'll be a little confusing at first, but you'll catch on. And this is the kind of thing you do have to do yourself eventually to really do it. What I'd suggest is you watch this and then try to do it with the same data set. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to notice in this row right here we have all the variable names. So I'm going to select all the variable names, and then I'm going to select all the data underneath it. Now I'm going to come up here and notice to do this except for the first row right here with the variable names, which are obviously letters, everything else has to be numbers, because we're going to be doing things like, we're mainly going to be doing averages, but you can do other things like sums. And so we're dealing with math. It has to be with numbers. Then to create a pivot table, we go up to the Insert ribbon, go all the way to the left, and choose Pivot Table. And we've already selected the data, so that looks good. We're going to tell it to put the pivot table in a new worksheet. I'm going to click OK, and there we are. Now right now this doesn't look like much because it's a blank pivot table. What we need to do now is tell Excel what we're interested in. First, what I want to do is, our main thing of interest is salary. So we want to know average salaries and how average salaries change for married and unmarried, people with animal science versus ag econ degree, things like that. So I'll check salary, and over here it tells me the sum of all the salaries. So if all the individuals in the data, if you sum up all their salaries, you get that huge number. Now of course we don't care about the sum of salaries, we're interested in people's average salary. So to change that sum to an average, I'm going to come down here in values. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to value field settings, and instead of sum, I'm going to change it to average. And when I do that, we come over here, and now it says average of salary, and in these data, on average, people made about $50,000. What I want to do now is I want to, that salary right there, that's a salary for everyone, but I want to make conditional salaries. That is, salaries conditional, say first on people being male or female. So let's do this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check male. Actually, I'm not going to check male and female. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag female down here, and look what happens over in our table. It's got the variable female. Now 0 means they're not a female, so they're a male. 1 means they are a female. And as we see here, males on average make about $52,000. Females on average make about $38,000. So you can see from this, males make about $14,000, more dollars. Now there's a lot of other reasons that people have different salaries. Instead of looking at different salaries for males and females, let's look at different salaries for people with different degrees. So I'm going to, under row labels right here, take out female, so I'm no longer interested in gender differences. I'm going to go to the majors. Up here we have the 4 majors: Ag, Econ, Agronomy, and Sci, Bake, Sci. And I'm going to take each one and pull it down into that box that says row labels. And when I do that, and I come over here and I look at my table, and now the table tells me the average salaries of people in each major. It may be a little confusing at first. You gotta look at it and have some experience with it. First thing it's telling us is here we have Ag Econ. And as you can see, here is where Ag Econ equals 0, which means they don't have an Ag Econ degree. And here is where Ag Econ equals 1, which means they do have Ag Econ degree. And of course, if they have an Ag Econ degree, they don't have agronomy, they don't have animal science, they don't have bacon science degree. So the average salary for someone with an Ag Econ degree is $53,000. Now let's go to agronomy. I'm coming under agronomy. I'm going to look for agronomy equals 1. And people with agronomy major make about $45,000. So we see right away that Ag Econ majors make about $7,000 or $8,000 more dollars than agronomy majors. Animal science, I find where animal science equals 1, and that happens at about $45,000. So animal science and agronomy make about the same salary. And finally, I'm going to go to baking science. This is baking, milling, feed science. Look for where it has a 1, which means they do have that degree, and $61,000. And so from this we see that both and science and agronomy majors make about $45,000. Ag Econ graduates make about $53,000, and baking science majors make about $61,000. Now let's say I'm going to go back here and remove all these degree qualifications. And suppose I want to just look at Ag Econ. And I want to know, for people who have an Ag Econ degree, what's the difference in salaries between married and unmarried people? So I wanna first say, let me just look at Ag Econ major. So I'm going to grab Ag Econ, put it under here. Then I'm going to say I want to look at married and unmarried people, so I'm going to grab married and bring it down here. What this is telling us is that first I'm going to go Ag Econ. Where Ag Econ is 0, they don't have that degree, so we ignore that. We come down to where Ag Econ has 1. Beside Ag Econ 1, there's married 0, 1. So this salary right here is for people with an Ag Econ degree who are not married, and they make about $46,000. Right here, these are people who have an Ag Econ degree, they are married, they make about $55,000. So married people make about $10,000 more than unmarried people. As you can imagine, experience has a lot to do with that. People who are married tend to have more experience. Let's do one other thing. Suppose I want to know I'm going to grab this has MS degree here too. That has MS, that's a variable that equals 1 if the person has a master's degree, 0 if they don't. And let's look over here. Let's look at this thing right here and figure out what it tells us. That salary of $65,865. What kind of person is this? Well, Ag Econ equals 1, so they have an Ag Econ degree. Married equals 1, so they are married. has MS equals 1, so they have an MS degree. So the person making about $66,000, they have an Ag Econ degree, they're married, and they have a master's degree. Over here, this is someone who makes about $37,000. And this person does not have an Ag Econ degree, they're not married, and they do not have a master's degree. They make about $37,000. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of different things you can do with this. What I've shown you is how to do conditional averages, but remember, if you wanted to know, like we were talking about sales, you wanted to know total sales in different categories, you can come over here to values, select value, field settings, and change average to sum.